to take over and to give that idea visual form. So when we were told that there was going to be a siege portion of the game, one of the first images that popped up in our heads was the image of a battleship. Now, on a battleship, there are a lot of shapes that really reinforce the idea that it's supposed to be this impenetrable fortress. So we decided to work those ideas into our early sketches and see how they turned out. If you look at some of those, for example, maybe you see that giant iron spike-like thing hanging off a chain kind of reminds you of an anchor, or the walkways of the fortress are already kind of long and elongated. They kind of resemble a ship anyway. So instead of having archers, maybe we should have giant ballistas on rotating platforms. It kind of reminds you of the guns on a gunship. And maybe instead of round towers or your typical square towers, we could have the towers be triangles to remind you of the bow of a battleship. And that triangular shape is something that all of us actually really liked because of its iconic properties, and we decided to use it as the main visual theme for the entire area. So we decided to put variations of the triangle all over the columns, the doorways, the walkways, the towers, and it really gave it this unified feel that made it look like it was designed by one architect, which was a good thing. So after that, it was time to define the materials. And for the materials, we chose just simple stone and iron. They're simple materials, but they're also very easy to read from our game cam, and they're easy to understand as far as like what it's made out of and that it's very strong and sturdy. So that was the first pass. After the first pass, what we have to do is show it to the team. We take their feedback and incorporate whatever they want to see into the concepts and try to do away with anything else that isn't really working. So one piece of feedback that we heard often was that while the first pass looked good, it was designed well, it felt a little too ornate and frail, so we addressed mainly the iron portions. We made the iron darker, we made it chunkier, the shapes got simpler but a little more aggressive. They're just big pieces of crude iron bolted onto this fortress for structural and protective support. The stone and the iron the stone got lighter, the iron got darker, so there was a better contrast between the materials. Even the stone itself got a little chunkier and had a little hints of those triangular shapes in it. So, after that, we have to get our images ready for the modeler. And as a concept department, we really try to concentrate on putting as much information into one image as possible, or into a single image as possible. So if you look at this, the tone is decided, the mood's there, the color's there, the materials are there. But if you divide this image up, you have a lot of smaller components that the modelers can take and build out a lot of small modular parts out of. And this way, if they want to come up with a wide variety of layouts, it's very easy to do. And if we have to go back and change things, it's also very easy to move things around. So that was the outside, and now what's left is the inside. For the inside, we wanted to change the mood over from this aggressive, hostile battlefield feeling to a more warm, a little more lived in, a slightly more inviting feeling, because the battle's going on the outside, but the soldiers are either escaping the battle or preparing for the battle on the inside. So we decided to do away with a lot of those triangular shapes and maybe replace it with more squarish shapes. They're both angular shapes, but a square is a lot less aggressive than a triangle. We also got rid of a lot of the iron and replaced it with wood, because the color of wood is already warm enough, and as a material, it's just not as threatening as any kind of iron. And to reinforce the idea that the inside is where the soldiers are, we wanted to populate it with a lot of props or devices that they'd be using, like catapults you see up there, ballistas, or mills or forges, things that they'll be using to prepare for the battle on the outside. So when you put all that together, you get something like this, where you have the same kind of stone as the outside, you don't have as much iron, there's a lot more wood, there's devices that they use for the battle, and you definitely have a mood that has changed from a hostile battlefield to this uneasy, nervous, kind of calm before the storm kind of vibe to get you ready for what's happening on the outside. And to show you how we take a concept like this and build a level out of it, Pete's going to take over and show you how that's done.
Thanks, Josh. Great job. So when we get a concept like this from our amazing concept department, we sit down on the environment team and have a meeting and figure out how we're going to turn this into in-game assets. This particular concept is actually really fantastic because from this one shot we get a lot of mood and depth, and we get all the materials we need. So it's incredibly useful. So in this, we figure out how we're going to break it up into components, walls and floors and pillars and etc. So once we have that, we start building. So here's a quick video showing a gray box version. So we build walls, pillars, bridges. We figure out the gameplay space. In this portion of building, there's a lot of back and forth between us and design to figure out the gameplay space, make sure it doesn't feel too confined, doesn't feel too open, has a nice feel, nice flow to it. Then we start dropping in the materials. So we know we wanted a lot of stones and woods, want it to feel a little warmer than the actual exterior. And in this part it's a little bit challenging because we have to make sure it feels like a unique level from the outside, but it still needs to feel like it's in the same world, in the same place. And then we get the awesome tech art team to help us out with the interactives, the lighting, the particle effects, of course the breakables, because everyone likes breaking stuff. Lots of stuff to blow up. So yeah, that's pretty much my job, and this is awesome. This is what I get to do every day. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. So I'm going to pass it off to Bender and Jill.
So now that we have a place to fight and a place to explore, there has to be stuff in it to discover. So I'm Jason Bender, game designer, and Jill and I are going to tell you a little bit about what we put in this world. So obviously, Diablo is about killing monsters, first and foremost. Some of you would argue, though, loot's pretty important. That's what we're all in it for anyway. So as you're going through these areas that you saw, like the inside of Bastion's Keep, you're not just killing monsters as you go. Every now and then you're stopping to kick open a barrel, seeing if a skeleton pops out, or clicking on a treasure chest to get some good loot. So when we populate the loot, we understand that you divide your time between these two things. So we have to put them fairly evenly throughout the world, so there's always something interesting to see, something new to find. One of the things, as you can see here, there are